Well, joining me now, we have Chris Thomas, of course, Policy and Reform at Douglas Central, and fascinating, Chris, to look back on your first interview last year with us, because you were very quick to hold this up, which you bought a copy today. Thank you from me to show. On a serious note, you have done pretty well what you said you were going to do. Not everyone does that, of course. They get in, things change. Take us through how you found this last year then.
Well, I have the advantage that I'm Minister of Policy and Reform, so I'm not.
You make the policies.
I'm not in any particular department, but I took a long time back in 2013 deciding what it was I wanted to achieve in the next 7 years in the Isle of Man. In 2016, when other people were already around door knocking, perhaps looking for ideas from conversations on the doorstep, I spent 3 or 4 weeks putting together that manifesto. And yeah, I've said on Twitter apparently one time that 80% of the programme for government relates to what's in my manifesto.
Are you writing the policy then?
I'm a coordinator. I'm Minister for Policy and Reform, so the Infrastructure Minister is responsible for policy in his area.
But what Chris gets,
education.
Once Chris gets, shall I say? I mean,
no. When we have cross-government policy, it might be that I coordinate it. I chair 3 of the 4 Council of Ministers subcommittees, the ones for social policy, the ones for infrastructure environment and the legislation committee, and so therefore I think I support my colleagues to make sure they can get where they want. I see synergies and connections with other policies, and I think I was very quick to get in on the process of writing the programme for government. I'm responsible for it to an extent. I've taken the documents about it each year. Change and reform team that's responsible for updating on progress is in an area for which I have a degree of responsibility. So in that sense I have the advantage. My political colleagues don't agree with me. We don't call ourselves a coalition, we call ourselves Team Tynwald. But I like to think that we're going in the right direction, and I'm very happy to be in the government and fully support the Chief Minister.
Okay, well, we used to talk to you a lot. We don't talk to you so much these days. You're doing less press, but anyway, we can deal with it right now. So let's go back this last 12 months. What are your highlights? What are you personally proud of that's been done?
The programme for government, it's now an institution. It's now there. People have signed up for it, and things have to be presented in terms of how they relate to the programme for government. So that in itself has to be a highlight. 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year. I'll be looking now at the end of my 7 years to put together a programme for government for the next government, because I said last year I would stand again.
Yes.
And I hope a year before I'll be able to release Isle of Man 2020 and beyond for the next 7 years. So this is the challenge to hold me to.
I mean, this is your thing, isn't it? You love all this stuff, don't you? I mean,
well,
you seem to relish it, I think.
I do like policy, because that's what matters to people. It's how politics changes their lives. Politics only matters to most people when it affects how much they bring home to have a better standard of living and to do what else they want with their income. Policy matters to most people according to the standard of their house in which they spend their lives and the quality of the life that they have outside their life. And I thought about this programme in that context, and I went into politics not because I wanted to be Chief Minister or Treasury Minister or even an MHK. I went into politics because I wanted to influence policy in the future direction of the community in which me and my family live.
You're in charge of the feel-good factor, I think, as well. I mean, you have these surveys, and we have talked in the past. You were worried about that last time round, weren't you? Because
I still am.
Right.
Yeah, I think the government, like I said last time, the government deserves much more marks for its performance than the public would as yet give us credit for. And we need to do something about that, whether that's communication or whether it's just developing understanding in other ways. I don't know exactly, but as yet, some of the really bold, excellent decisions that government have made, which have addressed issues that have been there for decades in some cases, we haven't as yet got the credit with
well, it is communication, I think. I mean, I'm talking about the press side of things.
Yeah.
Surely it's how you get this message out there, because obviously we're going to interrogate you when you're up for interrogation or whatever, but it's at the end of the day there should be that feel-goodness coming through if you're so convinced that things aren't as bad as people leaving the Isle of Man and all that sort of thing we were talking about last year.
Exactly that. So the economy, especially the local economy, has got issues. Part of those are to do with the amount of money that people earn. The other side of that is the amount of money it costs for a decent standard of living, and we have to have policies to address that. And we have got a gas committee that's going to come up with things for the gas market. We have got a pricing strategy for water and sewage and electricity which addresses that in terms of income. We've looked at it at the bottom end with enterprise. We tried to create high value jobs that pay people decent amount of money. The more public revenue we can generate, the more we can give in benefits, so that the so that people who are on benefits or pensioners can make sure that they can be included in the economic success that we've had. So that's the most important issue, and the economy is turning.
And is it from the top down or is it the bottom up
For
now?
me, very much it's from the bottom up. It's trickle up. I've
Right.
used that phrase.
I know, that's what I was trying to... Why did you definitely think that is the way to
Well,
forward?
if you're poor, you spend all of your money. If you're poor, you need more money. There's all sorts of reasons why now, at this stage in the economic cycle, and also for the right political reasons and social reasons, we've got to think mostly about those who are worse off rather than those who are better off. And
So you're well behind the minimum wage going up and all that sort of thing?
Well behind that, and that's the success. The living wage, calculating the living wage, beginning to think about what's called minimum income standards for the voluntary living wage. That's all part of it, but also further up the income scale as minimum wage goes up, living wage is mentioned. People like to maintain their differentials, so that'll feed through higher up society. Even creatives will be earning a decent living eventually.
Thanks. How have you found the year, though? I mean, have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I think going into politics is a lifestyle choice. It does affect you all of the time. If I rank myself, I'm probably you've got to stay happy at home as well, and that means that people around you have got to be happy with the amount of time. So, I would be angry if somebody phoned me up in the middle of the night, except once a year when there's a real emergency. But I try to be as good a constituency MHK as I can, given that I have quite a lot of responsibility at home and also for national politics.
Well, yeah. I mean, are you almost like a deputy chief minister?
We don't have a deputy chief
I know we don't have one, but you seem to be almost like behind the scenes. You're a quiet man. Would that be fair to say? You're a doer.
I'm a quiet man. I'm a doer. I like evidence-based policy, and the role I play is probably the role that of chair of groups of people. I'm a team player. I like to bring people together, and I do like to think that my attention to detail means that I can see connections that perhaps have missed other people. Because if you're a civil servant, you have to. That'd be missed by other people, because if you're a civil servant you have to focus on your job. If you're a politician responsible for a department, you have to focus on that department's interests. I don't have a department, I'm actually a minister without portfolio, so I like to think that I can help civil servants see connections, and I can help politicians see connections. They might hate me sometimes, but there you go, hopefully they appreciate me as well other times.
You've been very, very candid of it. How do you split between that PAG question about constituency and
you can't, because often a constituency query, especially when it comes through to me, gets lots of attention. Actually, it probably entails a change to national policy, because one of the things we've done is we've set up an ombudsman, so that if you're a constituent now, you can actually, after you've gone through the complaint system, you can actually go to the Ombudsman to see how your complaint was reviewed. We've set up the Freedom of Information system, whereby constituents can get information about something.
Is that working? Because
I think they're both working.
You know what I'm going to say? Yeah, because some things have disappeared. I'm really kind of like, I can't find things now.
We'll talk about that another
day.
But
okay, but overall, you think it was good?
So all these things, you asked me the question about constituency work.
Yes.
And basically what we've done is we've empowered constituents relative to the public service, and that's a second achievement. A third achievement, I'd say, is some of the really big issues I've put on the table, and I think we've come up with solutions rather than just identification of them of problems. So I put in that category public sector pensions. We're well on the way for a generational settlement to an issue that's built up over the generations. Funding of residential and nursing care, it's been too difficult for the UK government to solve this as yet. We have something on the table that might well be helpful in the UK to solve their issues, because their issues are similar to our issues. In terms of equality, we were years behind in terms of some of those issues, and taking that through. Social work and safeguarding, I took the safeguarding legislation through, and that will help greatly. So there's some of the big issues that I've tackled. I
mean, there you go, you just made it quite exciting. I'm sure people actually watching that, they're feeling quite feel-good factor in there. It's getting that across, but we've dealt with that. Okay. Where are you going next year? What have you got big plans coming? I mean, all those things you aside, which are going through the system. Have you got your eye on anything yourself?
Yeah. Well, in terms of government roles, got the cold, hunger and homelessness, which will identify the extent to which we've got poverty in the Isle of Man and what we can do about it.
Are you saying you don't know how much poverty there is yet?
Well, poverty is, there'll always be poverty in society, because many people think of themselves as being poor if they're poor relative to somebody else. But what I can tackle with the political consensus we've got is absolute poverty. So we need everybody in the Isle of Man to have a proper home, a proper house in which they can live, and that all the evidence suggests that will mean issues of cold and issues of food poverty can be sorted. So that's a real big focus, and I'll be coming with some work on that.
Okay, because I mean, homelessness, for instance, doesn't exist yet. There's sofa surfing going on.
It does exist.
There's not just homeless people on the streets, but there's sofa surfing.
Exactly.
I mean,
so that's
how you define exactly what.
And homelessness is wrapped in with mental health issues,
Yes.
and it's wrapped in with the dependencies, and it's wrapped in with breakups in relationships, and it's wrapped in with failures in the benefit system. So we've got some massive issues to tackle, and if we tackle those issues, which I'm trying to work with colleagues to do, we will.
How does this work? With the silo things we touched on last year, you're breaking those down still, or?
I think I've had more success than Chris Robertshaw and John Shimmer. Now there's something for people to listen.
It is. Well, that's why I say silo. I think Chris Robertshaw, because that's the word he
Chris
came up with.
Robertshaw talked about it, and I get on well with Chris Robertshaw, and I meet him regularly.
Oh, but you're doing it, something about it.
Well, I'm doing something about it, and the way you do something about it is you come up with something better. So we need administrative differences in government. We need administrative divisions. Chris Robertshaw had people focus on the concept of a single legal entity. That's not actually what people want. What people want is they want one public service. They want public servants to be working together and using public revenue, which is people's money, better. So that's what we're trying to focus on. They want one point of contact with government, so they don't want to have to go around lots of places to find contradictory.
Have you got a year for this to be done, by the way? I mean, this is an ongoing thing, I suppose, but have you got a breakthrough moment when Eureka will happen?
I think so. I think we're getting very close to it. So I chaired the committee which Chris Robertshaw served on 18 months ago to come up with an incremental approach to this, and that incremental bits have been happening for 12 months, and I think we will be able to have a breakthrough on this in the next 12 months, and you'll be talking to people about government's policy on this.
Yes.
And how the public service is dealing with this. You won't start every conversation with what's the department thinking about this, and you won't get political members saying the department thinks this. Hopefully people will think about one public service.
This is all so jolly. I'm just going to try something else. I mean, is anything you've been disappointed with? Anything
I have.
Okay.
I have. First of all, some of my colleagues have spoken far too long with you. Now you want you to shut me up soon.
You're about 12 minutes over. I've got a timer here. Because
and secondly, that we have made mistakes. It was wrong for the sewerage charge at the beginning of our administration.
The toilet tax.
The sewerage charge was 5 years ago, but it was wrong to call a 6% increase inflationary.
Right.
That made it much more difficult for people like me to begin to talk about making CPI the inflation measure and actually bringing inflation down so that the pound in people's back pockets went further. That was one thing I regret. I also regret that we haven't done more for housing, because I think personally we need a national housing policy, and at the moment we still have housing. Good progress is being made in lots of departments, but I think we need to join those departments up so we can join the progress up and make so much more.
That's a biggie.
Outcome. Local government rates modernisation, I think we should have done more on that, and I do think it's only really computer systems that are holding us back, but I really do think we should be making more progress in thinking through benefits and pensions on an integrated basis. So there are 3 or 4 areas where I would like to have gone quicker. Rates is always thrown at me, but if anybody managed to sort out the rates problems, which I think I think the statement I'll be making in the first Tim World in October.
Oh, this will be going out after that, so it'll all be out there. We know nothing. Okay.
Oh, sorry about
that. That's all right.
But
some good news.
But some good news on rates, and we might address it.
And you know how you survey the opinion every 3 months? There's an actual report. How are we doing now? Is the government? Are the people loving the government more because it wasn't in a good state?
I don't think so. That's why I'm concerned, and we do need to think about why that is. And my working hypothesis is we really need to exciting people and remembering the feel-good factor and actually communicating better, tell people what we're doing, actually doing, not just talking about possible. We've got to go from political philosophy to actual action to make things better. That's perhaps where Chris Robertshaw went wrong. I mean, ultimately he's guided by philosophy. He has a little red book. I'm not. I'm a very pragmatic, practical person.
Fascinating. How's it been in the Council of Ministers? Are you still getting on? You're not going to tell me anything too much, I'm sure, but have you found it challenging?
No.
Have you get your opinion across, or have you had to sometimes give in to other people because you have this collective responsibility, don't you?
Yeah, most people in the Council of Ministers voted for the Chief Minister.
You didn't?
I didn't. Full respect to the Chief Minister. He saw the merits of my case and he made me Minister of his policy and reform agenda, firstly. And secondly, we have a good relationship. We don't agree on everything, but he is actually very much a one-nation Tory. I know he's very proud of being that sort of person, but he wants to do the right thing by people. And if I'm
not sure if this is coded or not. I'm not sure if I should be reading things into what you're saying.
No.
You're giving platitudes out here, and I just wondered if do you get on with him properly?
I do get on with him properly, and I think we've got mutual respect.
Mutual respect again. Okay.
I think
you're not best pals then. I
think for the first 3 years of our political careers, he might not have been the sort of person I would walk into the office as much as somebody else.
Right.
But I think over the last 2 years, I've earned respect, and that is the way that you get respect from people. And I do think that in terms of the spectrum of political points of view, he's at the end. He's at the end of the side on which I probably am not. But I think that sort of person can see when it's necessary to deal with poverty and when it's necessary to sort out the economy in the way that I'm proposing.
I think people have to watch that back a few times and work out exactly where you are with him. But it was up here, then it was back there, but it was all over the place. Okay, how do you? How do you rate yourself first in the last 12 months? What number are you going to give yourself?
I think I probably deserve 8, at least I try to get 8. Probably some constituents get frustrated sometimes. Full respect to the constituents who know that I've got a big national agenda.
Yeah, so you never give me the breakdown, did you, on percentage-wise, did you?
For the government?
Government v being doing your stuff?
I didn't say to it. Basically, my whole life
okay.
is, goes between constituency, parliament.
Just wanted to check. I'd give you that option to give you the number. That's all. Okay, so you're an 8, and government you were probably the lowest, 5 or half, 6. You said last time.
And I said we'd probably deserve much more than that. Well, we did deserve.
It was
much
very
more.
frank. I have to say, hats off that I think people have watched it. You probably got one of the most reactions about. A real number comes out your head, and it's not this safe 7 and that sort of thing.
We deserve 9. We are communicating slightly better, so in that sense we probably get 6 or 7 this year rather than 5 or 6. But we've still got a long way to actually re-engage the public into the government's excellent actions that we're taking to address the real issues that are there in real people's lives, which is what politics should be all about.